Comic Book Savant Extra, Episode 12. Welcome back to the Comic Book Savant Podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This is what I call my Comic Book Savant Extras, where I kind of talk about some of the things that's on my mind, that's on my heart, to give you guys some personal insight between me and you and what goes on in my head behind me producing the Comic Book Savant podcast, YouTube, I guess the Comic Book Savant brand. I stopped distinguishing it now as a podcast or even a YouTube channel. It's just, it's become a lifestyle for me. So it is just what it is. Comic books have always been a part of my life before I ever sat down in front of a microphone. Whenever I stopped being in front of a microphone, comic books will still be a part of my life. So it's what it is. And that's what kind of led me to doing this episode. I've been branching out to YouTube, and I've always been a proponent of giving back to the community as a whole, just in the responsibility of being a podcaster. That sometimes I feel like people don't take the power that they have sitting behind a microphone or even sitting behind a keyboard, and the stuff that they put out. You put it out and it has a longer reach than what we expect, and there's power in your words. If you don't believe it or not, it is. And some people take it more seriously than others. I take it to heart. I've built up a good rapport and great relationships, all coming from doing what I do as a comic podcaster. And I got into this based on being a fan and reaching out to people that I was a fan of, like Derek, Howard, Comic Book Noise, the guys over at Comic Geek Speak. So many different people, along the way that I was fans of. When I reached out as a fan, they responded and they became mentors and they became friends, and they got me in this, into this world, and I in turn I try to help anyone that reached out to me in any way possible. I've done things over the years like to no cost to them. I produced and I released podcasts out on my feed to help people that wanted to start podcasting. Like anything they needed, if I could provide, I never asked for anything back in return. It was just that, people helped me when I was starting out. They helped me cultivate my ideas and just were there for me when I was trying to find my way, into doing this. So I always try to, give it back, and I always took it seriously. What I said, the recommendations that I make when every episode that I do, like I put in, it's like a job for me, just because I'm a perfectionist by nature and I'm an ultra serious person. Though I can be somewhat silly on the podcast at times, like I take it seriously what I do and how it affects other people. Because if you spend one penny, one dime on something that I recommend, I want to make sure that, I just didn't say it because I've heard other podcasters say it. I've read it. Or if I haven't read it or I partially read it, I will tell you guys when I'm talking about it based on what I've read to this point. I can recommend it or I really like it and why. And I take it to heart. And since I've been starting things like I've been expanding to social media, to doing the YouTube channel and doing even more videos and even doing more audio podcasts as well. Like I'm listening to what's out there, and I swear, like at certain points, like I see OGs, like the certain people that I know personally, that I've met, that I've sat down with, that I've collaborated with, like we got heart for it. We didn't just start doing podcasting because it's a lot of superhero movies coming out now, and it's like it's the hot thing to do. I'm gonna get paid. You know what I'm saying? Like, I probably, to my own detriment, like I've probably over the years of trying to keep the podcast afloat and expanding and the money out of my own pocket, that at times that I didn't have, but just because I wanted to keep the show going because I loved it so much, I probably have lost more money than I've ever made, ever sitting down doing this podcast on going on for 13 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's, if you want to be real about it, that's real talk. Like, I've probably lost more money than I've ever made doing this. I don't do it for the money. You know, it's just now recently that, like, I've really pushed in talking to you guys on helping support the show to turn it into a business, because I put so much time and energy, and everyone around me, you know, sees me doing it. It's like, why don't you try to monetize this just to break even and put a little money in your pocket? You know what I mean? And it's been a hard thing for me to do because it's something I love, but I do put enough effort into it, and I've been doing it for over a decade. Probably I should, because, you know, people search their whole lifetime to find things that they love to do, that they like. I get up and I love recording these episodes. I love reading the books to be able to talk to you guys about. I found the perfect job. I just have to get paid doing said job, but it's not my motivating factor in doing it. I will do it anyway. I do it anyway, and, you know, in the interim. But I see people like jumping on because it's superhero movies and stuff are the trend now, and they don't have the love for it, and it's a lot of false information being like spread. It's like, yo, like, if you're gonna sit down on a mic and talk about something, at least have enough respect to the fans that are gonna listen to you and support you, that you are knowing what you're talking about. Like, I had to cut a YouTube video off because they were talking about Image Comics and the whole how Image Comics was formed. And they were just so wrong. They were like totally off base on everything they were talking about. And what was so funny about it is that, you know, I had forgotten the story. This was even before it was just, I had just recently watched a documentary that a YouTube channel put out. It's, I think it's Sci-Fi Wire, I think, is a YouTube channel. I'll put the links in in the notes. I'll try to find the YouTube channel. But they broke down this documentary. I think it was 7 or 8 parts where they went through with all the different original creators of Image, and they cut in footage. It was like a professional done documentary where they talk about the whole thing. Easy to find on YouTube. It's about an hour watch. I think the different segments, it might be an hour, a little bit over an hour. If you're going to talk about something like that, you can Google it so easily and have the actual information where you can talk about it, where you're not spreading false information. Like, I learned real early the first time I tell this story all the time about Ed Moore, which is longtime supporter, listener, friend, brother to the podcast. The first time I ever met Ed, this is the first time I ever met anyone that listened to the show. I probably had been doing the show a couple of months. If I had 30 episodes out, it might have been like 30 episodes. I might have had 30 listeners or subscribers at that time. And Ed was one of them. I went to a Comic Geek Speak meetup in Pennsylvania. I drove up from North Carolina to Pennsylvania, and I met Ed, and I met his wife at the time. And he was like, "Hey, James." And I was like, "Who the hell is calling my name?" Because, again, I did not realize it at the time. I was just doing something to come out of my comfort level. I never was a big people person. Oddly enough, you'd think I might be a people person. I'm not an extrovert. I'm an introvert. And I didn't like public speaking, and I wanted to work on that. I always try to improve myself and to work on things that are my fears or things that I have trouble with, to kind of to just get better and try to improve overall as a person. So I kind of just on a whim, my aunt that passed away some years ago that I was extremely close to was like, you know, just do it. You know, quit being on the fence about if you were going to do it or not, and just give it a try. You know, if anything else, if you fail, at least you've tried it, and, you know, it is what it is. So, you know, I kind of started doing it. I never imagined that I could be, I'm sitting here now weeks away from saying I've done this for 13 years. I never thought I would do it for 1 year. I never thought I would do it for 2 weeks even. And I can say I've done almost over 400 episodes of just this one podcast. I've produced or been on close to 1,000 different podcast episodes at this point in my lifetime, from someone that did not like public speaking, never hate the sound of my own voice, that I would do a weekly podcast, and I'm probably putting out more episodes now than I ever have at a higher rate than I ever have at any other point in my life in this close to 13 years of doing it. It's kind of amazing because I'm befuddled by it. So, at the time, I'm like, nobody listens to that. It's like I would send it to friends and family, so I thought that was who it was, So he's like, hey, James, Comic Book Savant. I'm like, who the hell is calling my name? And I turn around and I meet Ed. He's like, I'm a fan. I listen to the podcast, blah, blah, blah. And then his wife just turns, she's like, it's you. And I was like, who's this lady? And he's like, this is my wife. He said, you're the voice that I keep hearing all the time, him listening to throughout the house, agreeing with things that you're saying and disagreeing with certain things you're saying. It's like he listens to you so much and he'll have it up loud and, and I know your voice. And I was like, and it blew me away. And it let me know real early is that is power. You have power and influence in what you say. So I immediately, I looked at it as a different level. And as time went on, I was very fortunate because when we were starting out, it was bigger, around comics, Comic Geek Speak. They were the bigger channels that, they became companies, they were making money doing this very early on because they were the first. We were in that second wave of shows, and I was totally grassroots. I've never had multi-thousands of all these crazy numbers. I never had that, but I've always had a faithful group and community of people that just have always, have supported things that I've done and put out there and show up and help spread the message. And I've kind of just stuck to my niche because what I do as a podcaster is different. And maybe I'm super serious. Some of the topics I cover, anybody can review a comic. Let's not get that twisted. What I do is not rocket science. It's just, what I mean? Now, maybe my take on how I break down and review comics or how I review a movie is different from other people. I feel like I do offer something different in that way. And I've always been unique where I don't try to jump on trends. I just do what I feel like I'm good at and I stay in my lane. And hopefully I feel like I put enough effort and I try to put quality into what I do, that if you listen and hopefully you gain some value from it, that is why I do it. That's why I love to do it. At this point now, I'm trying to sustain it and turn this into a business. Because I feel like what I do, I'm good at what I do, and people would enjoy it. So I'm trying to be better about spreading the word and try to monetize it in a way that it sustains itself, and then I can grow it. I want to, I'm seeing the possibilities of, I'm tired of just being behind a mic and you not seeing me. That's why I'm getting out in front of the camera. I'm getting out on social media. I want to get back out there and meet and interview, expand in a whole different level. I'm seeing things so much differently. Maybe it's where I am in my life, and I'm just enjoying it more than ever, y'all. It's sad. It's sad. I feel like at times it took me so long to get to this point of clarity, but you guys gave it to me. I was always scared as being a podcaster. The more content I put out, you guys might not respond to it because you might only want it to hear me once a week. So for so many years, though, it was I got all these episodes I want to do, but if I do them, is anybody going to listen to them? If I do this YouTube channel and I do this, is anybody going to watch it? I'm not saying I got millions of subscribers. No, I got as of this recording, I have 67 subscribers on YouTube. It's growing at a steady clip since I've kind of, found my way. It's learning all over again. Just like I learned in the beginning, if you listen to my first podcast to listen to a podcast now, it's a great difference in everything. Me and my comfort level, how I talk and flow on the microphone, in the subject matter. Like, it takes time, so it's taking time and it's been an adjustment. But I'm finding my way. So as people are finding me, or people that are coming over that listen to the podcast to be like, hey, let me see what he's doing over on YouTube, and you guys go over and you subscribe, like, it's gaining momentum, and people are starting to find me, which is leading people to the podcast and everything else. It's a symbiotic relationship. So it's doing it. But, I'm seeing a lot of people that don't have that love in their hearts for it, and it hurts me, man, because it's like, if you're going to be in this game, we've been fans for so long, and I don't want people dirtying and selling up the comic book fandom just to try to make a quick buck. Like, you know what I mean? I love Derek and what he does over at Comic Book Noise and all the podcasts he put out. Mike Myers doing Geek Brunch, DC Noise, the Marvel Noise podcast, my boy Daryl, my boy Heath over at Serial at Midnight that does physical media. He does comic book stuff. Like, he does a variety of stuff. And these people, you can tell when you watch their videos or you listen to their podcast, like, they love what they're doing. It's a love for the game. And I hate that it's getting dirtied up. And, and it's a big rush too on YouTube. Like, I did research for a long time. Like, I don't make a move without really trying to think it out and what the landscape is for it. When I was doing when I first podcast, I researched all the different podcasts out there and was like, it was a few single person podcasts like Derek. That's why, I listened to Derek and I liked him. He was a single man podcast, and it wasn't a lot, and it wasn't too many. Besides Derek, if I'm wrong, somebody please tell me. Derek was the only African-American black man doing a podcast on comic books, single person podcast on comic books at the time. I wanted to do something similar, but do my take on it. And that's what I did. And we were one of the few, it's probably more now. Hopefully we're the two most notable, but he was the first that I know of, that I could go on iTunes and find. And I probably was the second one that you could go on and find. In that, realm. So I just, continue to be unique and just, put a lot of my heart into it. I don't know how to do things half-heartedly. I'm not a seller. So like, when I ask you guys for stuff, I ask because it's what's needed, it's what's required. Like, I put the Patreon up. I have one Patreon, person, and another thing that always, it's disheartening sometimes, but I don't let it, cloud my love or judgment on what I do. I trust, I have faith in God, and I feel like you go through things for a reason. And sometimes I sit and it's like, I put so much work in it. I know people enjoy it. Why can't I get support? And then you'll see people that don't have the same amount of love and joy for what they do. And you can just easily tell, like, if this wasn't what was hot right now, this person would never be involved with this at all. And they're getting, all this support and all this love from everyone because it's just, it's maybe they have the charisma, they have the background more so. I'm an IT web design person. I'm not audio engineer. I'm not I didn't go to school for broadcasting, so I don't necessarily know how to be in front of a camera. And sometimes probably that could hurt me. I don't know. I try to pick up and learn as much as I can when I can. But then you'll see all these people get over support, and then a lot of times people don't support the smaller guys. And as fans of these things, I'm not even talking about just on me. That's why I said this is about the state of podcasting in general. If you like someone, support them. Take a moment to reach out to them. Follow them on social media. Help share their content when they drop new episodes. If you enjoy it and you know others that will enjoy the content, share it. You might not think it helps. It helps tremendously. I can tell when I drop an episode and I ask you guys at the end, share the content. I can tell because certain times I'll be like, okay, I normally get this many, and then I start seeing it go up in upticks. And like I was saying earlier, like what was I talking about earlier? when I was scared. I used to be scared to put out more content, like one episode a week. That's what the rule is. And, you know, as I start doing more, because, you know, physically wise, like, I had my tonsils for a long time, and I had to really, had my tonsils removed some years ago. And like, after I did it, I used to do way longer podcasts, and I'm like, well, I don't do 2 and 3 hour, you know, a week podcast anymore. So if I do, you know, again, all this stuff just shined on me recently. Like, let me just go for it. Let me just put out more content out there. I have more stuff that I want to talk about on a more frequent basis with you guys. And I just tried it. But the thought was, even amongst talking to other podcasters, that if you put out more content, that you might oversaturate your audience. What I've learned over like this past year and these past few months of putting out more content, you guys have responded to it beautifully. And I can tell, like, maybe certain episodes just don't land as well. Like, I'd be like, oh, this one didn't, this week, this episode didn't get a good amount of downloads or whatever to what I thought. I thought it was a good topic. But hey, you know, whatever. But then another one gets an extremely high amount, and overall it evens out, and it has increased because I'm doing so many different things that every episode, I understand, not every episode that I drop is going to land the same for every certain person. Certain people might not be interested in certain topics. I get it. But if I give you more, you know, content, then it'll find its way. And certain times later, and this is funny, I don't outside of like the movies, I don't plan out anything that I talk about. Like, I will have brainstorming sessions, and it can stem from a conversation I might have with one of you guys, like on Facebook or through social media or something. I could be having a conversation with my wife, and I'll be like, you know what? That's a good idea. And I will write it down, and I'll like develop it. And I don't script anything that I do. I just do like an outline to make sure I hit certain talking points, and I leave the rest alone. So I don't know in advance. Like, I don't get like so deep into like, this movie's coming out, then I'm going to review this comic tied into it so I can get more views here, or I can get more downloads there, because people are going to be interested in it. Sometimes, like, in general, because like, you know, it's getting to a point because there's so many movies out, I don't know the back history of all the characters. So maybe because I know something's coming out, I'll say like, okay, I need to read that. So I know a little bit more going into the TV show or movie. But sometimes, just because I go with the flow, I can't force myself to read anything. Sometimes I will intend to be like, I'm going to read this Black Panther trade before Black Panther comes out, and I happen to do that, and I think by the time I recorded the video, though, I had already saw the Black Panther movie and reviewed it, and then maybe a couple of weeks later, I end up doing the video. Though I did read the trade before the movie came out, I just didn't record the episode before it came out, and I just put it out when I put it out, you know, and so I'll do that, but I don't like scheme on views and on listens. It's just what I feel in my heart at that particular time that I'm going to do that I think you guys might enjoy, or just what's in my heart at the time. Like, this episode totally was random. I was, like I said, I was listening to I was not listening to a podcast. I was watching a YouTube video, and I just knew they were giving bad information, because I had just so happened that the subject they were talking about, I had just watched this documentary, and they weren't even close. But, you know, people don't know that. You know, if they watch you, they trust the things that you say. So you have to be careful, you know, in that power, because then you're spreading false information essentially. And it just bothers me. And I was like, you know, you should have, you know, if you respect what you're doing, you should have enough respect to at least research it somewhat, because, you know, that's the journey of being a comic book fan, is that the journey of discovery. And that's why we read the books and try to find out about these characters. That's part of the journey. So when you cut that out, I just feel like it's lazy, and it's not respectful to the people that support you. Excuse me, you know, that's why I feel like we're getting this big influx of now, because, you know, like a couple of years ago, it was a handful of pockets of, you know, comic book podcasting's been around and it's growing. But on the opposite side, for the longest time, comic book YouTubers, it's still like not as big. It's a very small niche on like YouTube of all these different creators. And I try to do something different on the YouTube channel. You see my face. I don't do voiceovers. You have some people that they'll have different graphics or, images up, and they do like these really cool voiceovers, and they're talking about stuff, and they'll have footage playing, and they're basically just audio podcasts on there. Now, like, I will do the audio episodes of the podcast, and I have them automatically posted on YouTube. So if you want to listen to the podcast while you, like, in the background while you have other things going, and you don't like have Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or iHeartRadio, like all the different platforms that I'm on in audio, you can always like go to the YouTube channel and you'll get the podcast. The new episodes go out up there. And my hosting company is Libsyn, so they like convert it automatically. Like, you get the cover art and you can listen to it. But like for the original content that I do on YouTube, I did maybe 1 or 2 episodes where I did like voiceover stuff, but it was like when I was talking about a comic book video game, and that was appropriate. Any other time you see me sitting at my table here in front of the camera, you get to see me in person, and I'm talking to you, as an audience. And I like that because not too many people in the genre of comic book podcasting do that. You're seeing more and more now because it's been growing. I mean, even in this past year or so that I've went down the slope of, doing videos on YouTube, I've seen it expand so much with a lot of people. And some of them are just, they're fans, finding their way on YouTube. Some of them are trying to explore in the realm of, now they're trying to learn about podcasting, because I've had some like reach out to me like, how do I do this with my video, type thing. So they're curious. So they're asking me, and I'm coming from a whole different realm because I've, for the past over a decade or more, I've just done audio and I've been scared to do video. And it seems like it's this weird cross-section of people that have been on YouTube for a long time now everyone's flocking to podcasting. And me as a podcaster, I've done it for so long, I can still continue to do it. I wrestled with, was I going to continue doing a podcast and just do the YouTube channel this past year, and I even put it out there before in the podcast, like, because it was just financially it being viable, and I was still kind of at that crossroads. But as I put out more content, you guys have responded, and have I gotten the Patreons or donations and stuff? I've gotten a few here that here or there, which helps. Help support where it can. Am I banking some money off of it? No, but I think it'll come in time, and that's a lot of. I have big plans, and a lot of stuff are going to roll out next month that I'm going to talk to you guys about in more detail when that comes, about where I'm trying to take the brand of Comic Book Savant going forward, to make it viable for myself, to continue doing it, to get the equipment that I need, to do the things that I need. We're taking it to another level. This year was a big year of learning for me as being a fan and being a business owner, making this into the business of, because I want to do this as a career job. I've loved it for this long, and I've done it, and I feel like I dropped the ball on taking it seriously in that aspect. And this year, and the things that I've learned has really opened up my eyes, considerably on things that I can do better to make the show better, make myself better, and make it viable for me as well, personally. So that's really where the goal, the end game is for me. And I hope you guys continue to support, continue to share. I know this episode was like all over the place, but it was like just on my heart, and I had to like certain times for me, like I can't go forward until I get what's on my mind or on my chest off, and then I can function again, because it will weigh me down, and I can't hold my tongue and like bite my tongue. on it, so I got to speak it. So I figured that's what the Comic Book Savant extra episodes always have been for me. And I was just struggling with it because, like, man, it can turn you to hate something that you love so much when you see it just not mocked, but just like dirtied up and like, you know, prostituted out. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, it's like the movie For the Love of the Game. It's like, just, you know, love it. I'm a comic book fan. I love comic books. I love the people that it has brought into my life and the friendships I've made and, you know, everything else. So it's like when you just do it all quick and dirty and just like haphazardly, it just bothers me. And, I just feel like it's not what, you know, I'm not a founder of this comic book podcasting thing. You know, but me and my people, my family, you know, my fam that I like to call my podcasting fam, I feel like if we don't, like, I feel like this happens in so many other industries. The people, the OGs in that industry don't like do things to make sure that it doesn't become something so perverse and so different from what the purity in which it started out. So I guess this is what deep in my heart is where I'm at with the show, where I'm going with my show, and keeping it positive and keeping it honest. So and I feel like that's what we all do. So like I said, not just me. You know, I have links. If you go to comicbooksavant.com, go to my links page, when you see the people that I link to, there are people that have that. So if you're looking for more of that to listen to watch, to consume, go there. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's people still out there, because you'll see certain stuff that people are just throwing out there, and you'll be like, what are you talking about? Like, I read the same comic. Like, did you even read the comic? You know, it's like they're you know, God, I'm showing my age. It's like, don't fake the funk on a nasty dunk. You know what I'm saying? Like Shaq used to say, mess like that. And you know, you're seeing a lot of that. So we got to weed it out, y'all. We got to weed it out and keep it pure in what it's about. And like I said, you know, support the small creators. Don't just like because, you know, everyone's hot right now and they're like huge and they're getting a lot of press of attention. It's if you listen to someone, and I mean this wholeheartedly, not just for myself but others out there, that if you like them, support them. Everything is not financial. Financial's good, but you can still spread the word, share the content. When you see that new episode drop, share it on Twitter, share it on Instagram, share it, you know, heart it. Reach out to the creator, tell them what you liked about the episode. Shoot, tell me what you didn't like about the episode so I know what to fix. You know what I mean? All those things mean a world to creators. You don't know until you reach out to a creator what their response might be. You know, like early on when I was early into podcasting, like when I would see a review on iTunes and it wasn't like favorable, I used to get the thing that people said I sounded like a robot. And it used to bother me like so bad, and I'd be like, "Yo, I don't want to do this no more." Like, it would hurt me to my heart. Like, you know, I'm not no punk or anything like that, but it used to bother me. It like affected me in my life, my day-to-day outside life, outside of doing this podcast. Like, I took it that much to heart, and it would take me like weeks to get over it. Where I don't know if I want to do this anymore, because I'm opening myself up to people that are just mean on the internet that want to say bad things just because. And it was always crazy because they would turn around and be like, he's good at what he does, but he sounds like a robot, or he put me to sleep, or, you know, whatever. And it used to, you know, used to really mess with me. And, you know, my wife gave me the best advice ever. And she was just like, you know, you only can do what you can do, and just, you know, do what's in your heart and don't worry about the rest. And that's what I started doing. So like certain times now I still might get some negative comments. It's like it comes with the game. Like I've done it long enough at this point. Like people love to say negative stuff. If they saw me being a 6 foot tall, 300+ pound black man to my face, would they normally say half the stuff they say on the internet? No, they would not. They would probably be scared to death to say it. that's the reality of what it is, and I kind of have to laugh it off and to be like, it's their opinion, they're entitled to it. It doesn't change my reality. I'm doing it from a good place. I'm a comic book fan that loves comics and doing what I do for other comic fans that love comics. If the only thing you can say is something negative or something derogatory without anything positive, then that's you. That doesn't change me as a person and who I am and why I do what I do, and that I love doing what I do. So I'm going to end it on that. I probably rambled on, but this was on my heart, y'all, so I just had to put it out and share it with you guys. You might like it, you might not. I don't know, but again, I do what I feel is right at the time, and I kind of put it out and let it fly and go from there. But I hope you guys have a good week. I'll see you guys next time for another episode of Comic Book Savant. You be safe and enjoy your comics. See you soon. Bye.